Welcome to Smell of Page. The Treasure Box, written by Sarojini Sinha. The Treasure Box won the third prize in the competition for Writers of Children's Books, held in 1980 by the Children's Books Trust. Chapter 1. It was a hot afternoon in the April of 1857. Govind was helping his father Ayodhya Prasad to grind and mix the medicines that were so popular in Delhi. Ayodhya Prasad was a well-known Vaidya and had a large practice. 14-year-old Govind was eager to learn all he could from his father, so that he too could be a good physician. Govind's mother, Rukmini, called from downstairs. "Govind! Govind! Come here!" Ayodhya Prasad caught up. "We had better go down, Govind," he said. "We have spent enough time here." They crossed the terrace in front of the room, went down the steep stone staircase, and came out on the front veranda. The house stood in a narrow, crowded lane. It was double-storied and quite big. There was a small garden, a wide veranda in front, a number of rooms, and a courtyard. At the back was a smaller courtyard where tulsi, amarbal, and other medicinal plants and bushes grew. Rukmini was waiting in the front room. She stood behind the chick as was the custom in those days. "Please tie her up to a branch of our neem tree and put up a swing for Chamba," she told Govind. Govind frowned. "Poor Chamba," said Rukmini. "She will be leaving us soon and going to her husband's house." Chamba was only 13, but had been married for 3 years. It was now time for her to go to her husband's house. Govind took a thick rope and climbed the neem tree, which stood in the courtyard. It had been there for a very long time. In summer, it shed tiny white flowers, which drifted into the old well standing at one end of the courtyard. But no one minded, for Ayodhya Prasad said, "The neem flowers have healing properties and will purify the water." He grounded the bitter leaves to use in his ointments, and of course, everyone used the green twigs to brush their teeth with. The smaller children loved climbing the tree and playing among its leafy branches. When younger Govind too was very fond of it. He had found a small hole high up in the tree trunk and pushed his hand into it. He could not pull it out again. His screams had brought the whole household into the courtyard. It took them time to understand what was wrong. Then his father went up the tree, widened the hole with a knife, and Govind, still screaming, pulled his hand out. For a long time, Govind remembered how frightened he had been. Later, he had used the hole as a secret hiding place. Once he saved some puris and hid them in the hollow. But a crow found them and took them away. Govind was heartbroken while all the others had a good laugh. A few days later, he hid some sweets in the hollow. This time, the ants got at them. Everyone teased the boy and began calling the hollow Govind's treasure box. Govind smiled as he thought of the incident. Now at 14, he was quite grown up. He too was married, but his wife, 11-year-old Dulari, would join him only after a year or two. Helped by the servant, Bhola, Govind tied the end of the rope to a thick branch of the tree. The white loop was within a meter of the ground at the center. Here the children placed a thick cushion to sit on and started swinging. That night, there was a curious incident. In summer, everybody slept outside. The woman and the younger children in the courtyard, and Ayodhya Prasad and Govind on the terrace. Towards midnight, Govind was awakened by the voices whispering in the dark. He saw his father talking to a tall, well-built stranger, dressed in the familiar red uniform of a sepoy of the East India Company. The two men stood near the parapet, overlooking the front garden and the lane beyond it. Govind stirred and must have made some sound, for the stranger's right hand flew to the sword at his side. Ayodhya Prasad whispered, "Don't worry, Chindamani, it's my eldest son Govind." The man withdrew his hand from the sword, but he said, "It would have been better if your son had not seen me. He would give away our secret without meaning to." "Govind is no fool, he will be careful," Ayodhya Prasad was sure. "Now tell me about Mangal Pandey." The stranger spoke in a low voice. Mangal Pandey was a sepoy in the British East India Company's Bengal army. The company people hold us, our religion, and our customs in contempt. They know the cow is sacred to the Hindus, while the Muslims regarded the pig as unclean and therefore untouchable. And yet they shoot to the sepoy cartridges greased with the fat of cows and pig. Both Hindu and Muslim sepoys refuse to use these cartridges. Ayodhya Prasad was shocked, but issuing such cartridges is bound to lead to an explosion in the country. It did Mangal Pandey called upon the sepoys to rise against the foreigners. He attacked a British officer on parade and was sentenced to death. He was hanged because the other sepoys did not go to his help. Had they united and fought the foreigners, they would have been driven out of the country by now. Ayodhya Prasad said thoughtfully, "It isn't right and proper that foreigners should rule our country, and yet they are so powerful. They dictate terms to our Rajas, Maharajas, Nawabs, and even the Emperor of Delhi. What respect can we expect them to have for our religion and customs? We will fight them," Chindamani replied with conviction. "The day is not far off when they will be forced to leave our country." "You will find me on the patriot side, Chindamani," Ayodhya Prasad assured him. As a young man, he had worked under the chief physician of the Mughal Emperor, Bahadur Shah. The position was a lowly one, but gave him the opportunity of learning the Unani system of medicine. He soon realized that East India Company had all the powers, while the emperor was only a pensioner. Disgusted, he threw up his job in the palace and set upon his own as a Vaidya. "We will need Vaidyas and Hakims, Ayodhya Prasad," Chindamani assured him. "When there is fighting, we will need physicians to treat the wounded. I shall consider it a privilege to take care of the freedom fighters," Ayodhya Prasad replied. Chindamani walked up to Govind and said, "I hope you are as true to your country and as patriotic as your father is." Before Govind could reply, Ayodhya Prasad said proudly, "I have brought up my children to be patriotic." "That's good," Chindamani said in approval. He then took leave of Ayodhya Prasad and Govind and walked quickly but noiselessly down the stone staircase. Crossing the narrow strip of garden, he let himself into lane. "Who was that man, Baba?" Govind asked. an officer from the East Indian Company's army. But he is a patriot who's working to throw the foreigners out of our country. You mustn't tell anyone about his visit here, Govind. I won, Baba. Now go back to sleep. But Govind could not sleep. He lay awake for a long time, gazing at the bright stars above. He knew how upset the people were over the way the East India Company was treating the emperor. It was time the foreigners were thrown out and the country became the free once again.